Welcome to Issues, and we're so very happy to have you with us. As you know, Issues is a program that deals with community topics. We try to bring in the movers and the shakers that's doing significant things in the community. Today we're privileged and very, very happy to have the Deputy Governor of Bermuda, Ginny Ferson. Now, I had problems with that last name, and she said, just think of person, but put an F on it, onto it. So, Ginny Ferson. And she is the first female Deputy Governor of Bermuda. So, we're going to have a conversation with her. Deputy Governor, it's so very, very happy to have you with us.
Thank you, Richard.
My first question, what attracted you to government service?
I didn't make a conscious decision to go into government service. I could just as easily have gone into the private sector, frankly. But what I knew from an early age was I wanted a career, an international career. So I was born, as you may know, in a small market town in the middle of England, into a working class community, close-knit small community, and had a wonderful upbringing. But I always had this feeling that there was a bigger world out there and I wanted to explore it. And I also had a passion for languages. So from an early age, I remember saying to my mother, Mum, I want to learn how to say yes in 100 different languages.
Can you identify any particular event that took place that attracted you to want to know different languages?
Oh dear, I can't think of one event really. I just always had this thirst for it. And I do remember at school an opportunity came up to learn Latin and Greek, and I didn't have a particular desire to learn Latin and Greek necessarily, but just the fact that there was an opportunity to do that. And it meant that I actually had to do these extra classes in my lunch break. A lot of my friends thought I was absolutely mad, but I really enjoyed it. And you know, I'd pick up little snippets of you know, how languages have come from Latin and Greek. So I used to show off to my friends and say, you know, hippopotamus comes from the word hippos, meaning horse, and potamus meaning river, horse of the river.
Yes.
So you know, little things like that I'd find really interesting.
Now, have you had many opportunities to use the other two languages, especially in Bermuda? Have you had an opportunity to use them?
Not to a great extent in Bermuda, I have to admit, but certainly in all the other places that I've been, I've used French a lot throughout my career. So in Luxembourg I used it a lot, in Mauritius I used it a lot, but then continually I make it a point, whichever country I go to learn the local languages. Not to a fluency level, because that would just take too long, but at least to learn to be able to converse in the local language. Because I think when you learn about a person's language, you also absorb a lot about their culture. Yeah. So in New Zealand, I learned Maori, and from that I picked up that, you know, the Maori set a lot of store by getting to know people. So we spend a lot of time introducing ourselves in Maori.
So what are the languages that you know?
So the only one that I speak pretty fluently is French. German I used to speak fluently, but I haven't used it very much. When I was in Korea, I learned to speak Korean to a conversational level. A little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Maori. None of those could I now have a conversation in, but you know, I'd pick bits up as I go along.
Excellent. My next question. I understand that you have been in the diplomatic service since 1987. What has been some of the challenges because you are a female?
That's an interesting question, because when I was at school and growing up, I didn't really have any sense that I would have any challenges being a female, because I was always led to believe that, you know, you can do whatever you want to do if you apply yourself and you work hard. So I didn't start off my career expecting to have challenges. But my first posting to Seoul, South Korea, at the time, this is back in 1989, was still a very male-dominated society. So all the households, for example, had to be registered with a male at the head of the household. And so that was quite an eye-opener for me. the females were going through education, they were going to university, but they were only ever then being employed as sales assistants or secretaries. So I found that very strange, and I gather there was a bit of a debate about whether to send me there. I was the first female vice consul at the time. They decided in the end to take a chance and send me out there.
So you're a trailblazer.
I never thought of it like that, but when I think back, I suppose, yes, it was a challenge. But and I remember talking to my local staff there and saying, you know, how come I haven't had more problems as a female? And they said, oh, that's all right, we think of you as honorary male. Okay.
Very good. So, boy, you were a trailblazer there, and here in Bermuda, you're also the first female deputy governor. So you set a path for others to follow. That's excellent.
Thank you.
What are some specific responsibilities of your position as deputy governor?
Okay, so I work closely with the governor, and we manage the relationship between Bermuda and the UK. And as you probably know, the governor has certain specific responsibilities in the Constitution. So he has responsibility for security and defence, international relations. And so I represent him on committees perhaps to do with, for example, aviation security, emergency management, port security, those sorts of things. I also have responsibilities around nationality in regard to naturalisation and deportations, those sorts of things. So it's actually quite a wide-ranging responsibilities, but it's difficult to package them into specifically what you do.
Do you find your days rather filled because maybe in addition to your office hours, there are these social events that you may be invited to, and while many of us, maybe our day may end at 5, but you have something that goes from 6 to 8. So do you find that those are some things that impact your day?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, obviously I have to take into account the needs of my own family as well. But I do love doing those events because they are my opportunity to get out and meet people and have conversations that I wouldn't have if I was sitting behind my desk.
That's
so I
true.
do enjoy them very much.
And it really gives you a taste of the country wherever you are.
That's right, yeah.
Now, as you've moved from various cultures, how easy has it been to understand the leadership style of those who are leading in that government?
Interesting, yes. My mum always told me that there's a good reason that God gave you 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So you do more listening than you do speaking, and I found that very useful advice. Because I never go into a new situation with any feeling of arrogance or, you know, this is the way it's done, because that isn't the case. Coming from the UK, I've been quite used to a system where the political parties have, you know, specifically, we're sort of business orientated, we're low taxes, low sort of social security, those sorts of things, or the opposite. So you know what a party stands for. That was my background. But then moving around the world, I found that actually countries operate very differently. So in some countries, it's actually more about the personalities of the leaders, and people trust the leaders, so they trust that they're going to do a good job for them. So there are different leadership styles, but it's just a case of listening and learning and appreciating.
As I hear you describe how you interact with different cultures and how easy it is for you to pick up languages, it seems to me that somehow understanding cultures and understanding people may be something that you have been good at all your life.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think obviously I'm not perfect and I get things wrong, and it is easy for a foreign person coming into a country to make mistakes without realising. But for the most part, I think people in the receiving country are quite forgiving. You know, if you're making an effort to understand them and to pick up a bit of the language, then they're usually quite welcoming, I find.
Okay. Share with us the process that the UK government goes through in selecting a deputy governor for any jurisdiction.
Okay. Yes, so what happens these days in the Foreign Office is that they have a list of openings that are coming up. So, for example, last year my predecessor, his posting as 4 years as Deputy Governor was over, so there was an opening here. And that would be advertised in the Foreign Office, and people would apply. And then a panel is set up, and they select the person that they believe has the best skills and experience that match the job that's coming up.
Now, generally, is the governor of that particular jurisdiction, is he part of the panel?
Generally, yes, he would be. He wouldn't have the deciding vote, but he would have a vote.
Okay.
Out of 3, generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you can recall, December 13, 2014, when you were sworn in as Bermuda's first female deputy governor, what were your thoughts?
Gosh, well, if I'm honest, it took me a little bit by surprise in that when I was sworn in as the Deputy Governor of the Pitcairn Islands, it was a much smaller affair. I think there were only sort of half a dozen people there, and there certainly weren't any TV cameras. So coming to this was a little bit more sort of high profile, if you like. So I suppose my thoughts at the time were simply, you know, I hope I can do a good job for the people of Bermuda, and that's all I was thinking. I think it was just about sort of telling myself that, you know, I'm going to do a good job, and just yeah, I think that's it. No deep thoughts, just happy to be here.
As you move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and as you get sworn in, are there any kind of nervous feelings that you may go through, or are you saying, oh, I've done this, I've been doing this all my life, it's no problem? Or are there butterflies to start off with?
I'm never blasé, Richard. I never, you know, I never take it for granted that I'm going to be able to do a good job. Excuse me, but I have to tell myself, you know, I've been selected for this job for a reason, because I have proven that I have the skills, that I've got the experience, that you know, I've built up some knowledge in this area, and so that's what I tell myself when I'm feeling nervous, which I do.
Now, your experience in Pitcairn, which only has 55 permanent residents, and when I was researching this, I said, what can one do with just 55 people? So share with us, how was it?
It's a fascinating place. You probably picked up some of the history, that it was settled by the mutineers from the Mutiny on the Bounty. And the people there are amazingly resilient when you consider, as you say, there are around 50, 55 people there. And life is, you know, fairly tough. They have to be able to survive. They have a supply ship once every 3 months. So they have to be able to grow their own produce a lot. They have to be able to look after themselves and look after each other. If there's a medical evacuation, for example, I mean, it's quite a frightening experience if there needs to be a medical evacuation. But it is a time when the islanders really pull together and, you know, get that person off the island and to whatever medical facility. So they are a fascinating people. Of course, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is on the island, as you may know.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I chose that question.
Right, okay, yes. So Pastor Ray and Anne have been there for quite a number of years, 7+ years, I think. And they do a good job on the island there. But it's a very... it's a close community, although it has had some very, very difficult, a difficult history. There has been a history of child sex abuse on the island.
Oh, any particular? That's interesting. Any particular reason why?
Oh well, I don't doubt there are many reasons why. One of the reasons is that it has been a practice that has been got away with if you like, for quite a long time. It had gone unnoticed largely.
Mm-hmm.
It had almost become the norm. So a culture of impunity, being able to get away with it. And as I'm sure you know, the problem with child sex abuse is that it is a secret. People don't talk about it. And it was very difficult to uncover that secret. And once it was uncovered, it became very obvious that it had been an endemic problem for quite a long time. And so the UK had to bring in some reinforcements, if you like, in terms of policing, in terms of a court system, to bring the perpetrators to justice. And we had to build a detention centre on the island. We had to set up a court, high court, an appeal court, appoint a public prosecutor, a public defender. Of course, we had to provide a lot of support to the victims, and they were always at the main focus. A lot of the victims were now off the island because Pitcairn doesn't have sort of higher education facilities. The children had to go off the island for education, and most of them didn't go back. So sadly, that is a very unfortunate chapter in the history of Pitcairn. But I think justice was done in the end. The victims saw that the perpetrators were brought to justice, and they were detained, and they've served their sentences now.
Very good. I was unaware. I watched your speech to the BPSU, and I like this word in your epigrammatic. I like that. In your epigrammatic remarks at the BPSU conference, you mentioned that people chose public service to serve. But would you agree that sometimes it appears that the one getting all the benefits is the political person and not the constituents?
That is an interesting question, and of course on my travels around the world I have come across some politicians or civil servants who have been in it for their own purposes. But I can say hand on heart that my true belief is that the vast majority of politicians go into politics because they want to make a difference. And I believe also public servants, the civil servants, go in because they want to make a difference. Certainly they don't go in to make great fortunes. I know that's certainly been the case. So, I think politicians have a difficult job. They have to make some really tough decisions. And I remember Tony Blair, when he first came into power, saying, I will make good decisions, I'll make bad decisions. But what the public will not forgive is if I make no decisions.
Yes. Now, you have stayed away from elected offices. Do you see yourself at some point in your career putting yourself up for a elected office?
No.
No.
No,
you were very quickly with that.
I'm happy with my chosen career, thank you.
Oh, okay, very good. Now, you've been in Bermuda now. So what are your impressions of Bermuda?
My impressions are, what a beautiful, beautiful place. I find myself saying Bermuda many, many times. And I think, I also hear people say, we take it for granted. And I think it's easy to kind of forget how beautiful Bermuda is. And actually, when you go away and you come back again, or if you have visitors coming in, you realise that actually this place is stunning. And we need to always remember that, even when there are challenges and, an economy that's not thriving as much as we remember previously. But, don't forget that Bermuda has great assets, natural assets. And the other thing which has been my experience is the friendliness of the people, the hospitality of the people. And again, visitors always remark on this. And what my husband and I have really enjoyed is getting out and really meeting the people, the communities. Cup match was out, just fantastic. It was a great opportunity. I wish they could be cut much every week.
We've been talking with the first female deputy governor of Bermuda, Ginny Ferson. You heard her mention her husband. We're going to be right back, and we're going to put some tough questions to her husband. We'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to Did You Know That? Did you know that there are 1 million ants for every single person on the earth? Wow, that's a lot of ants. On top of that, ants rarely ever sleep. And they have such an effective breathing system that air doesn't flow into their lungs, but through it to help them work a lot more efficiently. In addition to that, with their firm exoskeleton structure, ants have the ability to lift up to 10 times past their own body weight. Wow, those are some really strong ants. Ants also instinctively, without anyone giving them any orders, are able to find food and bring it back to their colony. In fact, ants are so smart, they can count the number of steps it takes to travel from food back to where their colony is. That's why Solomon said that we should take a lesson from the ants. These are some very intelligent creatures. Ants also know how to lend a very helping hand. Every single time ants pass between one another while they're traveling, they actually will share a source of glucose for energy to make sure that their friends are energized. Also, whenever an ant may die along the way, they make sure to carry off that dead or injured ant back to the colony. Talk about lending a helping hand. God has given us so many things in nature for us to learn from, and ants are just one of those amazing creatures. Did you know that?
Welcome back to Issues. We have been talking with the Deputy Governor of Bermuda, the first female Deputy Governor of Bermuda, Ginnys Family. Now we have joining her husband, and I've just got to share this with you. They're really a loving couple. Before we started, she had her hand on his legs, and they were holding hands. Now that is lovely. And Mel Ferson, I am finding out, is somewhat of a comedian.
Yes.
But let's put some tough questions in. Tell us about your family, Mel. How many kids do you have, and where are they now?
Okay, Richard, we have a little 10-year-old son living with us here in Bermuda called Samuel. He loves it here. He's had to adapt to different schools quite quickly because his lifestyle means he moves around. And I must say, he fell into school life here very quickly, which is really good for us. He loves it here. He goes to Saltus School. And we have a 20-year-old daughter, Natalie. Natalie's moved around the world with us as well, which has its advantages and disadvantages. But she's now at university, and she studied her first 2 years at Birmingham University in the UK, and she managed to get the opportunity to do her 3rd year in sort of like an exchange program in Sydney. So she's doing her 3rd year there, and she's studying physics.
Wow.
Which is a really tough subject.
Yes.
I mean, we see sometimes the work she brings home, we can't understand the questions, never mind try ever to help her with the answers. But she's doing really well. I see the difference in boys and girls studying. She's highly organised, really works hard. And
does she take that after you or after Ginny?
She takes it after Ginny. It's a girl thing. But she's doing really well. We're really proud of her. She's been to Bermuda a couple of times now. So during holidays and breaks, she'll come here. Relax, enjoy the sunshine. She's got out to meet a few people, enjoy that as well, because there are quite a few students from the UK who are from Bermuda in the UK, and they'll often come back during holiday time. So if she's met them on one of her trips here, she'll have stayed in touch with them. And then when they come back the next time she's here, they sort of get together. So, yes.
Now, let me ask, the decision for Ginny to apply or put her name in to come to Bermuda, was that a family discussion, or did Ginny say, well, listen, I see Bermuda is advertised, I want to go?
Well, the official answer is it was a family decision, but really, I could say she told it, but no, it didn't happen again. Actually, it was quite an interesting story because we had the chance to come to Bermuda or go to China. And I was always excited and thought going to China would be brilliant. And Ginny, this was a great job for Ginny to have here. So we couldn't make our mind up which one we would choose. Ginny was sort of pretending that I could make a decision what was true. So we had some people from the Foreign Office round for a dinner party, and we both put the pros and cons of China versus Bermuda. And at the end of the evening, we asked them to sort of vote on a little scrap of paper without names, so it's like a blind vote, and we would see how that went. But of course, we made the mistake of inviting only 4 people, and it was 2 each. 3 from China, 2 from Bermuda. But then, you know, looking at Bermuda, the job for Ginny, what we'd read online, what we'd heard about Bermuda, it wasn't a very difficult decision at all.
Very good.
In terms of family, environment, everything. It was just a great decision to come here.
And we're finding out that she's a trailblazer.
Yes, I heard that, yes. She certainly is.
Now, Mel, does your work get interrupted when your wife or the family decides to move to various locations in the world?
Well, this is something that's happening in the Foreign Office more and more. You're finding that the supporting partner is a male or a man, a husband. Traditionally, it used to be the diplomats were a male role and the housewives.
Yes.
So that's happening more and more, but it's still not very common. And you can't really have a career because your life is made up of 4-year chunks. So each posting is 3 to 4 years. So if I tried to start a business or to take up a new career wherever I go, I have to be very, very aware that after 3 to 4 years I have to move and try and start something again. But that's counterbalanced by a great lifestyle. Yeah. Like Ginny, I love going around to new places, meeting new people, interacting. So this is the positive side of that.
Very good. Now, what are your impressions of Bermuda? What are some of the positive things that you're enjoying about Bermuda?
Well, there are no negative things, so that's an easy question to answer. I mean, we lived in Mauritius for a long time, myself longer than Ginny, and whilst it's beautiful there, the beauty of this island, you can't easily describe it. So I play a little bit of golf. I'm not a great golfer, right? And it's a difficult sport, but I remember playing up at Port Royal, and there's a par 3 golf hole in Port Royal. And if you stand and look over towards the ocean, it is one of the most spectacular views.
I don't play golf, but I've walked through and I've seen that, yes.
And I've often said to people, you know, who we've had visitors who are, you know, artists or photographers, I could never describe the range of blues and colours that you see looking on that sea set, especially if the sun is in the right angle. But that, just to see the crystal clear water, the beauty, Horseshoe Bay we've been, swimming, the people, I mean, as you can tell, I like to talk, but the people here are just, you know, absolutely wonderful. It's just great experiences. And going back to what Jenny said earlier about cup match, it's just absolutely brilliant. Chance to meet so many people. So experiences so far are all very positive, but I don't know how anyone could come to Bermuda and not enjoy what's here.
Absolutely.
It's something tragic would have to happen. So no, it's just been great.
Yeah. We have been talking with Ginny and Mel Ferson, and we've been having a lovely time. We've been listening to Mel describe how the family decided, or at least Ginny let the family decide that it was their decision in terms of coming to Bermuda. But no, truly, it was a family decision in coming to Bermuda. And Bermuda, we are very pleased to have both of you here and your family, and we're so thankful. Now, one thing, your parents are coming later on this week.
Yes.
And will that be their first time?
No, their second time. They loved it so much. They came in April. And my mother, well, both of them, they love walking into Hamilton from where we are at Montpellier. And they meet so many people on the way. My mother loves to hear all about everyone. And it comes back in the evening and says, oh, I met that lady there, I met that lady there. And it gives everybody's history. And so look out for my mother.
Again, thank you so much for being with us. And we will see you next time.